This film is strictly for educational purposes only. OCO everyone. Many of you have informed me that you were not able to see the live stream from yesterday. So what I did was I put together highlights of it and I'm republishing it right now. Thank you for watching. Okay, so now keep in mind that that was 2 years ago. And believe it or not, this website was changed multiple times to the point where now it even looks different. Does that same information that I shared 2 years ago still exist on this website? Yep, it sure does. And still, the creators of this website never bothered to share where exactly they retrieved their information from. But during their most current video about their website, specific people are placed in the forefront telling you how they created and cultivated this website, along with the information it presents from theories, opinions, and ideas, which is formed on the basis of conceptualism. Conceptualism is the theory that universals can be said to exist, but only as concepts in the mind. So, in other words, it's just merely an indoctrinating way of using your imagination because someone is painting the pictures for you uncritically. Uncritically meaning with a lack of criticism or consideration of whether something is right or wrong. Listen closely to the words that are being stated in this video that I'm about to play. Okay? I'm going to point out the trigger words and phrases that will indicate whenever something has been created by the use of imagination.
The slavevoyages.org website has now completed 10 years of successful operation, drawing on 4 decades of archival research on 5 continents, a revolution in computer processing costs, and with major funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the UK's Arts and Humanities Research Board, the site now offers access to details of more than 36,000 slave trading voyages between Africa and the New World, a further 11,400 voyages from one part of the Americas to another part of the Americas, and 92,000 Africans who were forced to make these voyages.
Now wait, hold up, wait. Let's stop right here for a second. Henry Louis Gates Jr. just said a number that does not reflect the initial slave trade storyline as we were told. Weren't we forced to believe that 12.5 million enslaved Africans were brought to the Americas between the 1500s and the late 1800s? But he is saying that they have researched a total number of 92,000 Africans. Now, some of you may have heard 350,000 or somewhere along that same line, 300,000, a little bit more, or maybe even 3 to 5%, which should make you wonder if any of these depictions or assumptions are even remotely accurate or truthful for that matter.
The role of slave voyages as the basic reference tool for the slave trade to the Americas and now within the Americas is well established. Users can now analyze data, sample estimates of the slave trade, view videos, maps, and animations, consult research essays, contribute corrections to existing data, and add information on voyages that the editors don't even know about.
Whoa! 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 He said, contribute corrections to existing data and add information on voyages that the editors don't even know about. That should sound familiar to you, because what website allows anyone to contribute any information to existing data without the editor's knowledge? Wikipedia, exactly. Because anyone is allowed to create an account and add any information to articles on their website, even if it's sourced from non-working or non-existing links. Which means that anyone can be an editor of the information presented on their website and add anything they want to the existing information without having to prove it before it becomes available to the public.
For more on these new features, we need to turn to those involved in the project.
The new major feature of the Slave Voyage website is this intra-American slave trade database that Greg O'Malley from University of California, Santa Cruz, and myself have been organizing and coordinating during the past 2 years, thanks to a National Endowment of Humanities grants. This new database adds intra-American slave voyages. That means slave voyages happening within the Americas, from Curacao to Venezuela, from Barbados to South Carolina, from Jamaica to Mexico. This new database on the intra-American slave trade shows the importance of Spanish America, the Spanish colonies in the Americas, because a good number of these enslaved Africans arrived from other parts to the Americas.
The new interface is a lot slicker and speedier. Users will probably not perceive that while we were updating it, but we do hope that they will notice in the future. In addition to these improvements in the user interface, we also added about 1,200 new voyages to the database and new information about some 4,000 voyages that we already had. Since 2008, Emory has been the only institution responsible for supporting the website. But in order to make it more sustainable into the future, we are building this new consortium of universities that will help maintain the website, update it, and further developed into the future, so other generations will be able to use the website.
So I've been part of the project since 2006, and one of the facets that I'm working on now is the development of the 3D animation of a slave ship, an 18th century ship known as the L'Aurore, which carried over 600 enslaved Africans to Saint-Domingue, or modern-day Haiti. The animation depicts the ship prior to slaves being placed on board. And so we get a sense of what these slaves would endure on their 2-month journey during the Middle Passage. You're able to see through the camera different parts of the ship and follow from the different holding cells, the different components and features of the ship, as well as a time sense of a day and night cycle.
The Indian Ocean slave trade substantially predated the transatlantic slave trade and continued for much longer. Yet up until now, it's been less studied by scholars, and in fact, the true scale of the transatlantic is far more well known than the Indian Ocean slave trade. Scholars at the International Institute of Social History in Amsterdam recently held a conference where they brought together scholars that focus on a variety of geographic areas to uncover areas where we can expand our research and share our knowledge about voyages in the Indian Ocean and maritime Asia.
They've secured some seed money to put together a database within the next 8 to 10 years.
By using the transatlantic slave trade database as a model, scholars working together, sharing data, and
putting the transatlantic slave trade in better context.
I'd like to stress a slightly different future prospect for the site, and that is in switching the emphasis on the site from maritime transportation to the people associated with the slave trade. And this would include both the enslaved and those enslavers that were organizing the business. And the starting point for this is actually a grant the Andrew Mellon Foundation gave us an award to investigate anybody that was associated with the slave trades in both the Atlantic and in the Americas, with the idea of identifying who those people were. If you look at the existing site, we have in fact got a good starting base in the form of details on 92,000 Africans, as well as 31,000 owners of slave ships and slave captains. And we plan to expand in the sense of adding other occupations to this, including people who bought slaves and sold slaves. And it's not just the identification, it's the filling in of some biographical detail. Basic things like obviously age and sex, but also family connections, and basically open up a whole new vista for research.
Okay, see, now I highlighted those trigger words and phrases that indicates whenever something was created by the use of imagination. So all of these things that are being depicted, represented, and presented on their website are conceptions deriving from the basis of conceptual art. In my documentary called Harriet Tubman, The History of a Slave Ship, I mentioned that according to the College of Central Florida, conceptual art is based on the notion that the essence of art is an idea or concept and may exist distant from and in the absence of an object as its representation. That is because the job of the mind is to create an object where there is none. But if you don't control your mind, then a stranger gets to create that object for you. I'm just here to make you think.